demoralized by warfare, and we should be in this day and age. I mean, back then to fight in a war, you look at Napoleon, you look at Rome, France, any time period before World War One, it was a glorious thing to be a soldier and fight wars and glorify your country. But nowadays you can't, because in the 20th century, machine guns and bombs and these mass weapons of destruction are like the nuclear bombs of the 21st century. It turned war from a game of glory and conquest and victory to a game of tactics. And you see this in the 21st century where it's the same thing. War becomes more and more and more dull every century because it becomes more and more tactical. But you become far more ambitious at winning for selfish gain other than winning for the sake of a glorified victory or in the name of nationalism for your country or for God in some cases. But not that war was a good thing back then either, but it was much more glorious, it was much more heroic, it was much more honorable. You line men up, both sides were honorable. They would meet on the battlefields, general to general, and they would, give a speech or whatever, then go back and, commence the warfare. And it was a lot less deadlier too. It was total in the Renaissance and Napoleonic era. The casualties before the Victorian era and the industrial eras were a lot more less as well. So not only was the warfare a lot more glorious, but you were a lot less likely to die. Aside from the fact that the medical equipment at the time were very inferior. But my point is that back then to fight and die in a war in that time period, it was much more honorable. It was much more glorious.
You had ideals you were fighting for.
It was eye candy. It was literally aesthetical eye candy watching both sides in these glorious colors representing their nation. It's like a sports game, So I think it's very cool stuff. But unfortunately, we have
that war, the war history.
The old warfare, yes.
Yeah.
I wish it was like that because I feel like, people said the war in Ukraine is going to be like a war or a battle. It seems as the battle occurs. You look at all the live footage and it's like a squadron of soldiers versus a tank or something. And it's like, where's the 1,000 Russians charging, screaming "Urah" and taking on the fascist Azov forces? Like, this is so boring and dull, dude. We get to watch missiles bomb capital cities and civilian. In the case of Ukraine anyway, but it's like, this is so boring. It's like, I want to see charges. I want to see full-blown "Urah" charges and total victory. But it's like a slow. I hate it. I hate it so much. There's one thing that JB was right about, and it's that the war in the countries and everything else would be dull. The politics is so boring, dude. It's so boring. Everything is so dull and boring. I can't believe people can wake up and be on a moderate, especially on the left side. How can you wake up and say, this is a cause I'm gonna die for? The most base thing that came out of anything on the left was in Chaz. Do you remember the warlord guy? That one black guy who had the machine gun belts around him and he was carrying the big guns and stuff. I hate Chaz. That's some total 1984 shit. But you had this based warlord walking around with his own security, building up walls, and he's shutting down anyone that disagrees with him. I'm like, now this is what I'm talking about, dude. This guy, okay, sign me up right now. I'm a revolutionary. I want to see action. I want to storm with flags and guns and freaking. It's like that scene in Black Ops 2, the MPLA, where the guy is you're on board this truck and you're killing all the enemies. That's what I felt like. I'm like, this guy is a Chad. This guy's our guy. Okay, he's gonna save America.
Well,
okay?
he'll bring about change somehow.
Yeah, he'll change the system. He'll overthrow the system, and it'll be much better.
They can't have that.
I want to follow.
They
this
want
guy.
decline. They want moderated decline. They want managed decline. That's what the term is for. Even missile strikes could be done honorably and nobly, but no one's fighting for their own interests anymore, like Simon says in chat there, and no one's fighting for ideals anymore, dude. I mean, that's it. World War I was the beginning of that. It was very much the beginning of that, and sadly, to fight for ideals means you get crushed.